Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. We've got a winning streak to talk about. Atlanta United has won 3 in a row. That's the longest active win streak in MLS. Unbeaten in their last 4. In fact, 10 points in their last 4 matches. That's the most any team in the league has earned in their last 4. So Atlanta United playing very, very well, going into a big one on the road Saturday night at DC United. DC has been one of the surprise teams in the East this year. So, got a lot of fun things to talk about, Jason. Before we get to our special guest, I just want your general thoughts on the week that Atlanta United has had.
It's a week that was much needed, obviously. It puts Atlanta United right back into that mix for a playoff spot. And it's a week that I think still shows that there's room to grow. It's a week where Atlanta United's created a lot of chances, need more goals to show from that, but also 180 minutes of not conceding a goal. You never take anything negative out of back-to-back clean sheets, especially against teams with talented attackers like Carlos Vela, like Diego Rossi, like Alejandro Pozuelo, like Jefferson Soteldo. Atlanta was able to keep those guys off the board in back-to-back games. I feel like the goals will come because the chances are there and the opportunities are there. And when all of that starts to click, we could be looking at a very different Atlanta United the rest of the way.
Well, in fact, the team has been different in a couple ways personnel-wise. Luis Araujo made his debut Wednesday night in a 1-0 win over Toronto, which we will get to in a moment. But Atlanta United's new head coach is also on the way. He will be in D.C. physically Saturday night. He won't coach the match, but then next week on Tuesday, Gonzalo Pineda will run his first training session ahead of next Saturday's match against Nashville. So we have a very special treat for you here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. Jason and I, earlier this week, had an opportunity to spend some time with Gonzalo Pineda. I really think you're going to like what you're going to hear. How are you feeling? I know you tested positive for COVID last week, and I know this has kind of held up your arrival in Atlanta. We've been very much looking forward to having you here in person. So first and foremost, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. I'm feeling way better. I had two kind of not great days, but nothing major. Thanks God. I lost the taste and the smell, but the rest is just fine. I'm feeling excited to join the city and to be there. I'm driving crazy inside these four walls, so I just need to get out and just be with the team.
Yeah, I was about to ask you how crazy you've been going trying to keep up with everything from the other side of the country.
Yeah, well, look, I have plenty of notes here, a lot of stuff that I've been writing and trying to watch as many games as I can from Atlanta, from players. I've been trying to scout a little bit deeper our players, especially the ones I don't know that much. Luis Araujo, for example, is one that I've been watching all his games in Lille. And obviously the opponents, and just trying to fill the time with some games, which is what I love. And well, besides that, everything is okay.
Well, what have you noticed so far as you've done that scouting work? I know you spoke last week about how you're very comfortable with the roster that's in place in Atlanta. You like the infrastructure that's in place. So, what has stood out to you as you've watched Atlanta United play these last few matches?
Yeah, well, a team with a lot of potential. You guys can see how dangerous the team looks when Barco gets in those areas inside in between the lines, and then he starts to dribble forward with options, ball overlapping. Now the last game, obviously Araujo coming inside a little bit more and dribble with his pace, and we have aggressive dribblers in that part of the field. Lennon was a little bit more active in terms of trying to get into the end line. He get a couple of good crosses on Joseph, and obviously Joseph, how dangerous he is with his movement inside the box. Sosa, which is a big part of trying to keep the balance of the team. And well, the back three, I think they're improving a lot. I think the consistency of playing games and the minutes on the field is going to give them that knowledge of what is the right amount of cover, what is the right amount of pressure on the ball, when I have to drop, when I have to stay and keep the line, when I have to compress the space, try to manage. Franco, I think, is doing a good job in terms of covering the space in behind. For me, Franco has been fantastic the last couple games, along the other two center backs, Walks and Robinson. And then obviously Bello is a big threat in behind. I think his speed and his aggressiveness in the final third are going to unlock many doors. Obviously, Lennon and Hernandez kind of competing for that spot on the right side, but both kind of different roles, I would say. Hernandez more a steady defender, obviously physical defender, and Lennon, I said, is more of a winger, turn into wing back. And obviously a couple of good options from the bench. I like what I see. We have a couple injuries there, and I think when everybody's fit, this team is going to be dangerous. I can see the potential. Tactically, we are keeping the same kind of a structure with the back three, but this team can very easily turn into 4-3-3 with Sosa kind of being the holding center mid, and then when it is required to drop in between the two center backs. So I can see a very fluid team and very dynamic team, both individually but also tactically. Not an easy target, but that comes with time, that comes with work, and that comes with the commitment of the players, because my ideas here on the tactical board are fantastic. I never lose a game on the tactical board, never. But the players need to believe in that, and they need to say, okay, this sounds like a good plan, let's try it, and they persevere in that attempt, and then hopefully at some point we are successful, and that's the objective.
It was exciting on Wednesday with the lineup coming out and all of the questions coming to Mike and I ahead of our pregame coverage about how is this going to look? How do these pieces fit together? How is that balance going to look like? It was fun to watch how at times you would see those wing backs come in and help Sosa a little bit. You'd see Araujo drop and help Moreno drop. That fluidity feels like something that will be very dangerous for opponents to deal with, because this team can kind of shapeshift throughout a 90-minute match.
Yes, of course. The other pass that the other player I miss is Marcelino Moreno. Obviously, I think Marcelino is a very clever player and crafty that can do so many different things for us. He can be sometimes a number 8, kind of helping Sosa when we need to hold pressure, but also he can be a quick outlet, both outside on the flank or inside. He's also an aggressive dribbler. I think he's going to give us very good connections with the front three, and he can be actually part of those front three, so that becomes almost 4. So if you play 5-1-3-1, or you play 5-2-2-1 or 3-4-2-1, I think Marcelino can fit in all those roles. So yeah, that fluidity that you talk about, I think, is something that is appreciated from my side, and something to be encouraged, to be always mobile and dynamic and aggressive, and something that the team has already. Is just probably putting some sort of organization, I would say, so everybody knows what is his role, and everybody knows what's the role of the other guy next to me, so we understand. It's not the case where, okay, I move here just because I feel it, and then the next guy is going to do the same. Suddenly we are all disorganized. It's just trying to have a bit more structure, I would say, but nothing crazy different than what they are doing now.
How challenging is it for you to take over mid-season? The team is playing well, and you don't have the benefit of a training camp or a couple weeks on the training ground for your personnel to get used to you, and vice versa. How challenging is it for you to come in mid-season and start to implement your style and your philosophy?
Well, there are some benefits out of taking a team like this in the middle of the season, and obviously there are a couple things that, yes, I would say are not ideal, but it's challenging in certain ways, obviously, because I don't know that well the players, and I didn't have the benefit of having a 6-week preseason and work with them and know exactly what can anyone provide in each position. But at the same time, also they are in the rhythm. They have games, they have some momentum, and they have already created some relationships among themselves. So I don't have to worry too much about that. So it is what it is, and I just have to deal with it. I will have just to adjust. And again, when you come first time, and yes, you have 6-week period, you start to drop your ideas kind of every week, a different topic, whatever. Now I have to be very careful on how my message is going to be. So I won't be there and changing everything in the first week. I will try to adjust maybe two things that I pass the message. Maybe we organize this defensively, we organize this way offensively, we try to attack these areas, and that's it. And then the progression is going to come as the games come, and we have long weeks to prepare. After Nashville, we have almost 2 weeks, so that time is going to be very valuable for me. I'm already planning ahead a little bit those weeks, and hopefully the progression can be smoother, can be not as dramatical as some coaches would do. I think knowing this league, this part of the year is critical, and having a stability in this part of the year is what gives you more chances to succeed in playoffs. So I want to sustain the stability, changing little things, and then see if that can put us in good position for competing for the title.
Has the kind of crazy nature of 2021 added some work for you right now with getting to know the Eastern Conference? Without that cross-conference play that we're used to, you haven't seen many Eastern Conference teams this year. You haven't seen the opponents coming up.
Yeah, that's true. There are a couple that I've been following more than others. Obviously, Atlanta, for my benefit, was one of those, just because we faced them a couple months ago, and we always follow certain teams that you like how they play, or coaches, or you look over your shoulder to see how they are doing. I would say yes. I don't know all the little details that maybe I used to know from the teams in my conference, but that's why it's going to be massively important to have support from Rob and from all the guys that are already working in this conference. Their knowledge on those details are going to help us enormously. So my transition is going to be better because I have Rob. So I would say that that was one of the reasons too why I decided to keep Rob in the coaching staff.
I'm sure you have a lot of familiarity with Cubo Torres from a playing standpoint, and now knowing him in MLS. Cubo has aspirations to be a coach himself, and I know one of the reasons why he wanted to stay with Atlanta United is he wanted to work with some of the strikers in the academy. Do you look forward to the opportunity to maybe working with Cubo and helping him develop not only as a player, but potentially as a coach as well?
Yeah, obviously, I know Cubo Torres. He was very young when I was playing for Chivas. He was in the academies. I remember him. I used to go sometimes to look at the academy games or watch the under-20s, under-17s. I always loved that since long time ago, not now because I'm a coach. I used to do that when I was a player. And I remember Cubo. The thing of, obviously, I'm excited to work with him, but not anymore that I'm excited to work with Wolf, for example, or any of the other guys, Mulroney or Hinman when he's fit, and Chol and Amar and Adams. And I'm excited to work with everyone. And I'm Mexican, he's Mexican, Jürgen Damm is Mexican. For me, they are just two more players that I have the pleasure to coach. And I always embrace that challenge of trying to have great relationships and great conversations with everyone in the team. That's my style, and that's what I love. For me, obviously, there are starters. There are guys that are going to play more often. That's natural. That's normal. Everybody knows that. But I put a lot of emphasis on coaching the guys that are not playing that much, because those are the guys that sometimes they need the most love, the most encouragement, the most mental coaching. And for me, I'm excited to work with all of them. And if they want to become coaches, I would say it's a difficult job, but certainly it's a beautiful job too. And I would try to guide them a little bit, if that's the right word.
I'd love to ask you your journey specifically. When was it in your career that you started to think about coaching? Was it while you were still playing? Was it when you were in Seattle? Or was it after you had retired and you were kind of figuring out next steps?
Yeah, I would like to say that yes, when I was a player, for sure. actually sometimes very invasive with my coaches. So sometimes I remember being in Chivas and try to tell the coach, hey coach, I watched the last 2 games of the position and they're gonna play this formation. What if we play like this and this role and I drop in this area so then I can connect more? And I remember that, like I was a student of the game since I was probably 23, 24. The video analysts hate me because I always wanted on Monday the last game that we just played and the last 2 games of the opposition. That was my routine. And so sometimes I record those games on my TV when that became available in the, in the cable. And I used to do that all the time. So I was since probably after I met La Volpe, when I went to the World Cup and all that process, I felt like, oh yeah, this is something I want to do when I'm retired, for sure.
Who was your favorite coach that you played for at any point in your career?
Well, I was blessed in my career with many good coaches. If I always highlight a couple, maybe I'm very unfair because I had so many, but probably the ones that impact me the most are Hugo Sanchez in Pumas, who's a legend in Mexico, obviously, and he more about his mentality and the way he treated the players. The other one was Ricardo Lavolpe, who was a tactician and a guy that always tried to put in our minds how to create numerical advantages or positional advantages in the team, and teach me a lot about tactics and formations. And then Enrique Mesa in Cruz Azul, a legend in Mexico, one of the most winners coaches in Mexico, and he kind of did it backwards. He kind of put me to think before I was thinking in tactics. He said, just think about connecting your passes. That's the most important part. Is your pass into the front foot or the back foot? Are you putting thought into your pass, the right pace, the right angle, the right area? Are you passing into the feet or into the space? And then your first touch. What about your first touch? Is your first touch forward or backwards? What gives you the most opportunity to progress the ball? And those little details, technical details, make me think the game in a different way. And kind of all that mix is kind of who am I, plus my own ideas, plus my own experiences. Obviously, I was directed by Siggy Schmidt too, who's a well-respected coach in this league. So I learned a lot about the league from Siggy Schmidt, rest in peace. And obviously, well, Brian, I mean, he was the assistant coach there. And I remember having long conversations with Brian in my time as a player. And that's how that connection started with Brian, probably because we were talking about the game and we had some similarities. And well, I had also Juan Carlos Osorio, who was the national team coach for Mexico. He was my coach in Puebla, and I learned a lot from him. And there are many, many others, but those are my highlights.
Who's a coach from, that you haven't played for, a coach that as you started to study the art and really, dig into it, that you've admired and you've learned from without working for?
Well, in the world, no question about it, is Pep Guardiola. It's someone that I think he marked a generation. He changed and evolved the game in so many different ways that now I think we're going to rate Guardiola more in 20, 30 years when he retires, because the way he changed the game in the world was amazing. So I'm always listening to his ideas, to his newest interviews, to all his press conferences, to all the videos on YouTube from his coaching moments. But there are so many nowadays. I mean, there are so many good coaches. Jurgen Klopp in a different way, the passion and the intensity of their teams, the high pressure, the counter pressure. And I think also he's evolving his coaching. Tuchel, the guy in Chelsea, what he did in Chelsea was fantastic. Actually, part of our work in Seattle, when we changed the formation from 4-2-3-1 to backline of 3, I was taking a lot of clips from Chelsea's, from Tuchel, under Tuchel and show that to the players. Say, look how the back five shift over. Look how the pockets of space, how the 2-10s occupies those gaps. That's what we need to do, the connection, the rotations. And he was one of the coaches in the recent times, after all my passion for Guardiola. I think Tuchel is one of the ones to step up forward for my that caught my eye nowadays.
You had a brief career in broadcasting for Univision, and you were fantastic at it. What are the chances we're going to get you in the broadcast booth at some point before maybe you get started on the touchline?
No, I think my time in broadcasting is just over. I love it. I love that. Honestly, as a job, it's a fantastic job, and the way they treated me there in Univision was amazing. From top to bottom, everybody's top class. Everybody treated me fantastic. The atmosphere, everything was great. If it is not for my passion for coaching and the football, I would be happy to be there for the rest of my life. Honestly, the friendships I created was amazing. So yeah, I know why you guys do what you do.
Well, we're looking forward to making friends with you, Coach, when you get to Atlanta finally, and we're looking forward for that to happen. We're glad you're feeling better, and thank you so much. I know you're quite busy right now. Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us and the Atlanta United fans for watching this on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff.
No, thank you, Mike and Jason. I think I'm looking forward as well to be there, and hopefully we can have very good moments with this fantastic organization.
Jason, I get the feeling as we get to know Gonzalo Pineda, we're going to learn more about his philosophy, more about him as a coach. This will be his first head coaching assignment, but I found it fascinating to hear him talk about some of the coaches that he really enjoyed playing for and some of the coaches that I think he kind of draws inspiration from currently.
Yeah, I love the story about Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel and what he did coming into London last year, where they were the by far best team in Europe after he took over. And he made some changes on the fly. And it's something that Gonzalo was able to see and bring to Seattle, where he was at the time, and say, hey, this could work for what we have personnel-wise right now. How can we make this work? That shows a manager who, that video nerd tag is there. And when you're constantly studying and you're constantly looking for those advantages that you can find, whether it's something that you see in your own team, something you see in an opponent as you're scouting and studying, or something you see another team in another league in another part of the world do that you think you can bring to the table and make your group better and get better results. I love a manager like that is always looking for that inspiration around them. I think Gonzalo Pineda is going to be somebody who solves problems in a very creative manner as they come up. And I can't wait to see him on the touchline for Atlanta United.
Like you said, when he gets started on Tuesday, he might look at one or two little things, but for the most part, he's taking over a team that is playing very, very well right now. It's been a 6-point week for Atlanta United, which started last Sunday with a nationally televised 1-0 win over LAFC. Let's take a look at the highlights of Atlanta United's last two matches.
Yeah, we'll run through LAFC and Toronto. Two difficult opponents in very different ways. Toronto has a different kind of threat than LAFC. And LAFC came in with a lot of attacking firepower. But Atlanta was able to weather the storm and create opportunities like this one, a 3v2 that Barco holds it long enough. Moreno runs off the ball. Joseph Martinez can't quite get it out from under his feet. Maybe could have went with a different option there. Brad Gazan with some big plays late in the half. You see a ball end up in the back of the net, but as we see the VAR get involved, there was a slight offside. It wasn't huge. You can see it right there. The shoulder, he's out in front behind the last defender, brings the goal back. That was a bullet dodged for Atlanta United, just like that was a bullet dodged. LAFC was growing into the game as the first half went on. But Atlanta found the breakthrough through this ball from Marcelino Moreno. It's a 2v2. Throw it down, see what can happen. Barco gets on the end of it. Perfectly weighted ball to Joseph. Doesn't even need to take a touch. that gives Atlanta the lead. And maybe with the way the first half ended, Mike, it felt like against the run of play just a little bit.
Just a tad, but I thought Atlanta United was very, very tidy after scoring the goal, which is something that we saw really in the second half against Toronto. And one of the things we talked about on the post-match, yeah, Brad had to make some saves at the end of the match, but nothing overly difficult. So Atlanta United gets the 3 points on Sunday, and then on Wednesday, they take on a rotated Toronto FC side.
Yeah, Toronto left Pozuelo and Soteldo out of the starting lineup, which caught us by surprise a little bit. And Luis Araujo made his introduction with that big opportunity that Quentin Westberg had to save. Marcelino Moreno threatened Westberg as well. Atlanta really put Toronto to the sword early, and it's another ball over the top that provides the breakthrough. Atlanta United wants to control possession, but when that ball is on, they hit it. Barco brings it down so well. Lennon delivered it perfectly as we get another look at it here. Watch that first touch from Barco. It's immaculate. He looks for the options. There's really not anything readily apparent, so he decides to have a go. It takes a deflection. That helps. But he struck that well, and it ended up exactly where he was wanting it to go. Now, from there, Atlanta should have put the game away. They had the opportunities to do it. Toronto brought on Pozuelo, brought on Soteldo, and did make it difficult down the stretch, but it's another game where Brad Guzan didn't have a ton of work to do in it. 3 saves in this one as well.
Yeah, I thought Miles Robinson did an excellent job against a fresh-legged Jefferson Soteldo. That might have been Toronto's best chance of the whole match.
It was.
And it was still very well handled by Atlanta United. And then a couple opportunities at the end of the match for Atlanta United to find a second, including a goal that was ruled offside. Hey, when you beat Toronto, Jason, and Darren Eales talked about it earlier in the week, Toronto's, for whatever reason, they seem to be kind of a bogey team for Atlanta United. It's been difficult to beat them over the years. You're going to gladly take 3 points. I don't think either one of us expected 1-0 score lines against LAFC and Toronto. I think we both thought there would be a lot of goals scored by both teams in those matches. But like we always say, when you can throw up a clean sheet, you have a very, very good chance at winning the match, and that's what Atlanta United did.
And neither match was lacking in opportunities for more goals to be scored. I mean, Atlanta didn't give up a ton of opportunities, but they had chances to add more to it. Both were attack-minded games, I think, from all the teams involved. Just the way they played out, they were tight, and Atlanta was able to see it out. I think one of the reasons, though, why Atlanta United was able to see out with 2 clean sheets, and especially late against Toronto. You mentioned Miles Robinson and Soteldo. I thought Alan Franco was outstanding over the last couple of games, playing in the middle of that back 3. We're seeing a very comfortable Alan Franco, maybe not leading this defense because I think it's leading by committee, but he is contributing in so many facets defensively for Atlanta United right now.
I don't think it's coincidental either, Jason, that you see the 2 former Independiente teammates, Alan Franco and Ezequiel Barco, kind of both surging at the same time. And we've heard anecdotally that both of them really do work closely together at the training ground. Barco's confidence has blossomed since the Olympics. We talked about that last week on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. I think just a couple matches of healthy continuity for Alan Franco has gone a long way for him, don't you?
Yeah, it's been huge. And the defensive side of his game was not where I had any concerns when he was recruited by Atlanta United. It was the work on the ball. And to hit that ball right there, to take one touch to settle it and get his head up and pick out a pass and be willing to hit that and risk it. I love what he's doing on the ball. And it's not what I expected from him. This kind of work, just to be a physical presence defensively, we knew he had that in him. And he defends 1v1 differently than Robinson. He's a little more physical, maybe a little stout at times, maybe sometimes a little too aggressive. But I think he's finding that balance. And when he can combine that work, where he just makes it difficult for opportunities to be created, and he can combine it with good work on the ball, and he's going to be tested this weekend against DC, who likes to press. When you get both sides of that from Alan Franco, you get these kinds of performances where he has been among the best center backs in Major League Soccer over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, when we got the team sheet on Wednesday, we saw the lineup. We thought, wow, that's a really aggressive idea by Rob Valentino to play Moreno and Barco and Araujo and Joseph all together with Sosa basically your holding midfielder. I think one of the reasons why Valentino had the confidence to play so aggressively is because Atlanta United's center back trio right now is so dependable. And if he's trying to get the best 11 players on the pitch, to me, 3 of the best 11 on this team, Jason, are Robinson, Walks, and absolutely Alan Franco.
Yeah, and they're all able to do more than what the old school prototypical center back would do. All of them are able to step out wide and defend on the touchline. All of them are able to step into the midfield and chase maybe smaller, more mobile attackers like a Soteldo. All of them are able to play and be contributors in all facets of the game in their defensive half. And that takes a little bit of pressure off Santi Sosa, and it also gives Rob Valentino and now Gonzalo Pineda coming in next week the opportunity to play Sosa by himself and get an extra attacker on. Now, you're going to need to get those rotations over time because teams will see that, try to exploit that, try to create double teams in that area, 2v1 situations in the attack. Atlanta United will have to continue to refine this idea, but I don't think you're able to even entertain the idea without the performances of Alan Franco here lately.
Well, not only has it been a great week for the first team, it's been a great week for Atlanta United, too. It's really been a great month of August for both the first team and the second team. How about 6 goals at Sporting Kansas City, 2 last weekend? Jack Collison's side is just playing really, really fun to watch soccer right now, aren't they?
Yeah, this group is just flying right now, and Jack Collison is doing an amazing job with getting the concepts of play through to this group, and it's a consistent group right now. Pressure. Tyler Wolff creates the turnover. Robbie Mertz tucks it inside. Darwin Mateus gets the goal, but it starts with Wolff just not giving up on a play, creating something out of nothing. That's essential, and Tyler Wolff has been in great form here lately. Connor Stanley also in great form, leaving that one through, almost creating goal number 2. Connor Stanley is another one of those wingers who likes to defend. I think he kind of enjoys the defensive side of that role. Here's more defending, high up the field, creating another turnover. And that's where Atlanta United 2 has really thrived, is pressing, creating these opportunities. You see it slotted home there from Wolff. Another great game for him. Atlanta United, too, just continued to pile on the pressure. Philip Goodrum came into the match in the second half. He gets a goal. Now he's healthy after breaking his foot earlier in the season. A little bit of a poacher's goal. Robbie Mertz helps create that. Mertz has had a big week as well. And then, story of the game, again, more pressure and another goal. That's what it has been. Mackie Jope, perfect ball into the middle. Another guy who's getting healthy. Goal you don't want to give up here from Atlanta United 2, but it's 4-1 at that point. And they see it out. It's a team that is just making life really difficult for opponents. And while we see right now with Atlanta United and MLS, those magical combinations from Moreno, from Barco, from Araujo, from Joseph, and that front four and how they can play on the ball, what you're seeing from Atlanta United, too, is what their front 4 and 5 and 6 is doing with pressure to create opportunities. It's really impressive how fast they have gathered what Jack Collison wants them to do defensively high up the field. And he's talked to us about it ahead of games and after games. It is very intentional, the way that they are pressing. It's not just happening because you've got young players who are working hard. It's very intentional. There's concepts there of how he wanted to press Indy 11, for example, versus Sporting Kansas City 2. The players are grasping it, putting it into practice on the training pitch, and then, most importantly, putting it into practice in games and climbing up that table in the Central Division.
Do you get the feeling that Tyler Wolff has maybe gotten Gonzalo Pineda's attention a little bit? Because in our interview, that's the second time now that Pineda has spoken openly about Tyler Wolff.
Yeah, I mean, he has to with what he's doing. And I think what Tyler is getting comfortable with now as just a professional player is as an academy player, when you have the ability that Tyler Wolff has, maybe the goals come a little bit easy at times, and you're a goal scorer, so that's what you're focused on. As a professional, to be an attacking player, especially with Atlanta United, look at how hard Ezequiel Barco works off the ball. Look at what he does defensively. We're going to see the same from Luis Araujo. Those are the kinds of players that Tyler Wolff has to be like to fit with the first team. Because I do think his positioning will be more in those roles than as a central midfielder as he was playing earlier in the year. But because of that work, playing in a different role, seeing the game in a different way, and now having it be further refined by Jack Collison, by Rob Valentino, Tyler Wolff is becoming a complete player. The goals are still coming, but he's becoming a player that is really dangerous pressing. He reads the game so well. He's able to jump into those passing lanes and intercept passes that create turnovers that then create goals.
Well, just as I was happy that Ezequiel Barco and Miles Robinson got some recognition on Thursday for being named to the Team of the Week in MLS, the USL Championship Team of the Week, obviously full of Atlanta United 2 players because of that performance last weekend in Kansas City.
Yeah, Philip Goodrum with his performance. Robbie Mertz, I think, has been brilliant as of late for Atlanta United 2 on the whole. And Caleb Wiley, at 16 years old, is starting to become a mainstay on the USL Championship Team of the Week. Caleb Wiley at left back, he got a lot of games last year as a 15-year-old. He's only gotten bigger physically, better in the way that he reads the game, and I think even tidier on the ball. Caleb Wiley is a player that you will see in Major League Soccer with Atlanta United, I think, and he's a guy that could be that next great left back down the road in U.S. national team pools. He's got that kind of ability, and to get, almost 30 games now at a professional level as a 16-year-old, that's going to do wonders for his long-term development. Loving the work that he's putting in. And when you've got veteran guys who went through the college ranks, like Robbie Mertz and Philip Goodrum, to be around that young talent coming through the Atlanta United Academy, you have the result of Atlanta United 2 in a playoff race this late in the season for the first time in club history. And I really hope that those young guys get an opportunity to play in do-or-die playoff environments. It'll be huge for their development long term.
Sunday will be a good test in Pittsburgh Sunday night, 7 o'clock, because Pittsburgh is also in a playoff position right now. Robbie Mertz going back to play his former team on the banks of the Monongahela River. That'll be on ESPN Plus Sunday at 7 p.m. Let's look now at what has occurred in Major League Soccer in the last 2 rounds of play since we spoke to you last on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. This was last weekend. Wild sequence at the end of the match up in Montreal. 2 penalty retakes, and Club de Foot beats New York Red Bulls. Miami gets cooled off a little bit by New York City. New York City then would eventually be cooled off themselves. Nashville scores 5 goals in a wild one against DC United. And one of the teams that's quietly playing pretty well beneath Atlanta United on the Eastern Conference table right now, Chicago Fire, they got a 1-0 win over Columbus last weekend.
Yeah, Columbus really struggling, and that continued. DC struggled in Nashville, gave up some bad goals in that one. A lot of space that Nashville was able to exploit. We'll come back to that. The Montreal Red Bulls match was chaotic at the end, but Carlos Coronel came off his line twice, and they were both pretty obvious to the point that the third penalty that's taken, he gets both hands to it, but he can't push it out because he's so focused and standing in place. Crazy sequence, but Montreal got the win there. And we look ahead to the midweek where Atlanta defeated Toronto. New England really had to fight with DC. Miami with late game heroics over Chicago. You mentioned NYC cooling off. Philadelphia got a much needed win. And the Red Bulls bounced back from that disappointing loss to Montreal where that could have gotten in their heads a little bit. They defeated Columbus 1-0 in the midweek.
New England saw that out against DC with 10 men, by the way. They had a 3-1 lead. They went down to 10. DC gets a very late goal. But the Revolution right now, kind of running away with things in the Supporter Shield race. Atlanta United had a really, really good day on Wednesday as far as their table standing is concerned. Even though they didn't move up from 9th, they're now tied for 8th. They're 3 points below the line. In fact, they're only 3 points out of 6th. Now they're only 8 points out of 2nd, and they're in striking distance for a home playoff match because they got a lot of help elsewhere around the Eastern Conference on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's what, you'll have to do for a little bit here while Atlanta United tries to climb the table. Keep an eye on what's going on around the Eastern Conference. And we thought coming into the year, Mike, that this would be a really competitive Eastern Conference. It's proving to be that. We didn't think New England would run away from everybody. I didn't have that one on my bingo card. But the fact that it would be tight in positioning, really pretty deep into the table, I expected that. I didn't expect Atlanta to be where they are. They've got work to do to get on the other side of that line. But it's not going to be easy because there's really no games off here. There's no easy matches coming. And with really no cross-conference play coming either for a lot of teams in the East, you're going to see a lot of good, competitive, evenly matched games play out. And they're going to be decided by little moments in each of the 90 minutes played.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, even the bottom of the table teams can get you on any given day. Even Toronto, who's last place in the entire league, we saw that on Wednesday. They accounted themselves very well. I think Cincinnati has a lot of potential. Chicago, as I mentioned, playing better. Miami got hot for a little while now. They've cooled back down, but they still can get you.
They got to win.
Let's take a look at the. Yeah, that's right. Let's take a look at the fixtures now for this weekend in MLS. We're going to give you the rooting guide here if we can. You want Seattle to win at Columbus. You want Toronto to beat Miami. You would love for Cincinnati to pull an upset on New England. You would love Red Bulls to beat New York City. Chicago, well, of course, we're always going to root against Orlando here, right?
Of course.
You probably would rather see Philadelphia beat Montreal because Atlanta's 3 points behind Montreal. Bottom line is this. If Montreal and Columbus were to both lose this weekend, and if Atlanta United were to win in D.C., then we would have a 4-way tie for 6th in the Eastern Conference. Teams 6 and 7 would make the playoffs. Still have quite a few weeks left in the season, but if you follow me on Twitter, you know how much I love to review playoff scenarios. So why not do it now here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff?
Yeah, it's just, look, it's part of the gig right now. I
think it's fun.
It can be. It's more fun to be talking about Supporter Shield scenarios. I like that side of it a little bit more. But there is a lot to pay attention to in the Eastern Conference. And some of the moves we're seeing, some of the injuries we're seeing around the conference, little factors that maybe in a normal season we might look at and say, okay, how much of an impact is that really going to be? It could keep a team out of the playoffs, or the right moves or the right tweaks to a lineup could put a team into the playoffs. It's that close.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now, D.C., they were pretty hot in the month of July. They have cooled off now. They've lost 2 in a row. They've conceded 8 goals in those 2 matches. They have scored 4 goals in those 2 matches. Hernan Losada rotated a little bit in that match against New England on Wednesday, but even playing 11v10, DC United was not able to get a result in that one. But they made a pretty slick signing off waivers on August the 12th to bring in Avila from Minnesota. And what does he go and do? He ends up scoring a goal Wednesday night against New England.
Yeah, Wanchope Avila was a signing that Minnesota was very excited about, coming in from Boca Juniors. A talented number 9 who's just a pure goal scorer in the box. That's his goal in Minnesota, off the head. Robin Lod trying to find that space. You get a little bit of the enhanced move. Watch Avila's movement. He's not a guy who's going to blow past you speed-wise, but he finds that pocket of space against Vancouver. Gets between the 2 center backs, and this is what Atlanta United will have to be careful about. Robinson, Franco, Walks are going to have to be in conversation. They can't allow him to have that kind of space. He's just a pure goal scorer. He's not a guy who's going to dribble past 5 guys. He's not somebody who is going to blow you away in creating chances for others. He's just a pure number 9. And DC, with a nice pickup off the waiver wire, goes to find him. One touch, boom. very simple. A very simple player, but a guy who has supreme confidence, a guy who has won trophies in Argentina with Boca Juniors, and a guy who can hurt Atlanta United if they're not careful. It's a different kind of challenge up top than Atlanta had against LAFC, for sure, because they didn't really have a true number 9. Carlos Vela dropping into the midfield a lot. You had defenders against Toronto as well, dropping to have to chase players who are more naturally, inclined to sit in that zone 14 area or drop out wide. Avila, if he gets the start or comes off the bench for DC, will occupy center backs. So Franco, Robinson, Walks, and Brad Kazan are going to have to be in communication to make sure he doesn't find those pockets of space and doesn't hurt Atlanta. They have to be careful because he is a goal scorer that, frankly, I think DC has lacked at times over the past few years. Ola Kamara has been inconsistent for them at times. Avila could be that move that we talked about that changes the table a little bit in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta doesn't want him to get hot on Saturday.
Ola Kamara has been very good this year, though. He has 11 goals, so he's 5th in the league in goals. Julian Gressel, 5th in the league in assists. I do think there are going to be a lot of goals in this match both ways. DC has a backup goalkeeper. Their center backs have had some injury problems this year. They're starting to get a little bit more healthy, but again, conceded 5 to Nashville in a very, very wild match. Then, conceding 3 to New England. New England is capable of doing that. But I just have a feeling, as you said earlier, Jason, DC is going to give you some space. They're going to press a lot, and the press will look chaotic at times. But if you can break that press, there will be room for Atlanta United to attack.
There absolutely will be. And the key is going to be understanding how DC is going to put Atlanta under pressure. And what they try to do so often is split the field in half vertically. So, and a lot of this comes from Ola Kamara, or Avila is going to have to be doing this as well when he's in the match. They cut the field off, and we know Atlanta likes to move from left to right, right to left, especially in the way they build up play out of the back. DC's forward is going to try to cut that off and make Atlanta play on one side, either the left or the right side. When that happens, the big switch can be on, and Atlanta's a team who likes to hit that big switch. They always have, whether that is Walks, whether that is Franco or Robinson or Santi Sosa or Brad Kazan, for that matter. That is going to be huge. I also think George Bello and Brooks Lennon, or whoever plays in those roles, will be very, very important in this match, because that's how you can get out and escape, is through those wing backs, assuming Atlanta keeps with a 3-4-3 shape that's been working really well. Those players become critical because they are your escape route. And if they can get out of the pressure from DC, first wave of pressure, very good. The middle third, DC is pretty good there. If you can get through that pressure and run at DC's back line, space will open up. There's a lot of new faces and a lot of different faces in different places for DC. You want to put them under that pressure and have that back line crumble as New England was able to do to them. So get past the first wave, and I think Atlanta can find some space to operate in and exploit.
All right, predictions. We've been pretty good at these lately. Had a little bit of a setback last week.
I got half.
Okay.
I got half.
You got half. You got it. I came close, but close doesn't count on the AT&T countdown to kickoff. We're going for glory here on this show.
Okay.
So here's my prediction, Jason. Who is number 1 in the league at fouls suffered this year as a team?
Atlanta United.
Who's number 1 in the league in fouls committed this year as a team?
DC United.
I predict Atlanta United will suffer 20 or more fouls on Saturday. Now, I know that's a high number, and I'm taking a gamble on this because as we record this on Friday afternoon, I still don't know who the referee will be for Saturday's match.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I could get very unlucky. It could be a referee who doesn't call a lot of fouls. I just think, though, DC, the way they press frenetically, the way that they tend to foul, and I think it's more of a testament to Atlanta United. I want to be very clear on this. I think this is more of a testament to Atlanta United, how dangerous they are going to be in the attack with Barco Moreno, Joseph Araujo. It's less to do with DC and more to do with Atlanta United. I want to be very clear on that. But I think Atlanta United ends up drawing 20 fouls in this match Saturday night or more.
I like that. That's a different kind of prediction. I like to really look at the individuals and individuals that I think have good matchups. And and dig into that. And I think this is a game where a player who has created a lot of chances this season for Atlanta United will have that opportunity, and it's Brooks Lennon. I think Brooks Lennon will have a lot of space to operate in because Atlanta is good at dealing with pressure. And they really don't mind if DC tries to split the field, cut off that movement from left to right, because Anton Walks, because Miles Robinson, George Bello, Santi Sosa can all hit that big switch. And I almost think Atlanta could try to bait DC at times into feeling like they can cut the field off, popping it over to the right side. We've seen Atlanta work the ball with patterns to Brooks Lennon a lot this season. This is where it comes into play. Work the ball to the right side by drawing everybody to the left. Brooks Lennon driving down the right side, then looking to feed maybe Joseph Martinez, maybe Luis Araujo, maybe Marcelino Moreno, maybe Ezequiel Barco, maybe George Bello making the run from the opposite wingback. Brooks Lennon will have a lot of opportunities. So I think Brooks Lennon will create 4 or more chances on Saturday. And I'll go a step further. I think Brooks Lennon has an assist on Saturday. 4 or more chances created and an assist for Brooks Lennon.
He had an assist on the Barco goal Wednesday night against Toronto. If memory serves me right, Jason, I think the last time Atlanta United played at Audi Field, Brooks Lennon had a golazo driving down the right wing and shooting from outside the 18. So who knows? Maybe it'll be more than just creating the scoring opportunities. Maybe it'll be converting the scoring opportunities for Brooks Lennon. Brooks has worked more than hard enough. I'd love to see that effort paid off with a goal this year.
Yeah, would love to. It's something we saw at the very beginning of the year in the joint training exercise with Charleston, where he made that long diagonal run and had a nice goal. This is the kind of game where that could absolutely be on as DC throws numbers forward to press. So when Brooks Lennon can get forward, good things can happen, and I think he'll have those opportunities on Saturday.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. 8 o'clock will be the kickoff on Saturday. That's an unusual kickoff time, so make a note of it. 8 o'clock, the kickoff from Audi Field. TV and radio coverage starting at 7:30 on Bally Sports South and on Star 94 for the radio. That'll be Saturday. We want to thank Gonzalo Pineda for joining us and giving us his time on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff today. It was really fascinating listening to him. Coach Pineda is very, very busy right now. He wants to hit the ground running when he gets here to Atlanta on Tuesday. He even showed us his notes. He's very, very busy. So we're very, very grateful for his time, and hopefully we'll be able to visit with him a little later down the road when he gets settled here in Atlanta. But that'll do it for this week on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. We'll be back next week to preview Atlanta United's home match with Nashville. For Jason Longshore, I'm Mike Conti. Thanks so much for joining us.